And I think part of the reason why we don't experience this is because we don't know how to compromise in this kind of biblical way. We don't know how to look to the heart of God, to understand the purposes and the will of God, and then to look at each other through that perspective and lens. Whenever we look at situations, whenever we think about situations, and whenever we make decisions about our situations, it's always from the perspective of me, what I want, how I expect things done. It is a very me-centric perspective, and therefore from that me-centric perspective, of course you're right and they're wrong. But in life, I find oftentimes it's like this situation. It's not that one is right or one is wrong. It's that oftentimes in life, you need to be faithful to how God has called you, and I need to be faithful to how God has called me. And sometimes those paths lead separately. But one of the reasons why I really love today's example is this. Because when you can do life in this kind of biblical way, compromise in this biblical way, even our parting is not out of anger, even our parting is not out of maliciousness, right? But there's a mutual respect, a mutual blessing. So how do we know that happens here? In 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11, Paul is in prison. This is the latter days of his life. He knows he's not going to last much longer. He knows he's about to be executed. So in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 11, he's writing a letter to his spiritual son Timothy. And he tells him in verse 11, hey, right now only Luke is here with me. Go get Mark, meaning John Mark, the one we just talked about, and bring him with you because he is helpful for me in my ministry. It means that Paul and Mark have been doing ministry and life together. They didn't just say, I'm done with you and never, no. They were able to bless each other. And when the time came when John Mark was restored, when Barnabas was faithful to restore John Mark, and he was in a place of maturity to join Paul, Paul received him and they did ministry and life together. To such a point that when Paul was at the end of his life, saying, there are certain people I really want to see one more time. Right now, Luke is one of those people, he's with me, and Timothy, you're one of those people, and I know you're going to come to me, but don't come alone. He says, what? Go bring John Mark along with you. He's been such an encouragement. He's been so helpful to me in my ministry. This is the hope that I have. That we can be a church that learns. Because I think many of us have experienced church conflict in a very worldly way. And so church conflict has always led to what? Church splits. And that's why our natural reaction is always, we have to prevent church conflict. But that's oftentimes not the healthy response to have. What we want to learn how to do is what? How to have church conflict in a way that's truly loving, that's truly understanding, and that's truly mutually blessing, and above all, that is being faithful to the purposes and the will of God. That's what we want to see. That's how we produce fruit. That's how we stay as community. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you right now, the more you get to know me, the more you will find out how imperfect a person I am. The more you get to know me, the more you'll find out how annoying a person I am. And eventually you're going to say, I don't want to get to know Pastor YJ anymore. All right? How do we overcome that? You need to have the love of God. A love that's faithful. A love that says, I want to see you being transformed, Pastor YJ. As you're being transformed, I want to get to know the new Pastor YJ. Right? You really want to have this kind of heart. So I'm going to ask you guys just to take some time to pray with me. And let's pray these two things. Let's pray that we can experience the love of God first. Once again, we don't want to just share the love of this world to one another. How we can have this kind of community and friendship is that we have to be centered by the love of God. And as we're centered by the love of God, let's pray that we can continue to become a new person. Second, let's pray for this. Let's pray we continuously become transformed whenever we come here each and every Sunday by the love that we are receiving from the Lord himself directly and the love that we're experiencing from one another. That it gives unto us a new heart, a new mind, and a new attitude. You might come here feeling like you're burdened. You might come here feeling discouraged. You might have come here feeling in darkness. But I pray that the love of God would help you to be set free. And this is what I want to end and close and encourage you with. The summary of the gospel, the summary of the book of Revelation is this. Jesus is victorious. Christ wins. That's the love that we want to share. It doesn't mean you don't go through hardships. We want to share God's love that tells you and reminds you Christ will be victorious over that hardship. It doesn't mean you won't face difficulties. We want to share with you a gospel love that reminds you Christ will be victorious over that situation. That's the love that we share with one another. Not a love that prevents, but a love that is victorious. So let's take some time to pray, and then we'll sing a song of response. Let's pray together.